Hello and welcome to the instructional materials portion of my online Moodle course rubric analysis. So what I decided to do for this section, seeing how there are 6 standards to be met, and actually 7, and didn't want to use too many pictures or too much text, which might become cumbersome and hard to digest, I will do this screencast on how my Moodle course stands up to meeting these standards as seen over here. So we're talking about instructional materials and how they're used. First, let's look at 4.1 and how these instructional materials contribute to the achievement of the learning objectives. So if we go to my course, we can see here's an assignment right here where I ask students to research a social justice champion and to create a report on them. Not only will students research, but they will also actually write a formal analysis type of report using textual evidence from research resources that they are asked to use, and post that in a forum, as well as responding to other students' posts. Furthermore, they are asked to create a storyboard, which is a computer software used to create children's books or picture books. So what this activity asks them to do is to take the large amount of information that they report on here in Objective 2 and then condense it, possibly make it more digestible for a younger audience using pictures and shorter text, thus synthesizing the information to make it easier, more accessible to all people, students of all levels. So let's take a look at some of the materials that are included in this assignment. So in order for students to begin their research, they will go to this portion of the site, researching social justice champions, and it will pop up a list of multiple different social justice champions. Actually, here's the link right here. And once it gets here, there are, let's see here, I believe 15 different social justice champions. Some of them are groups, some of them are individuals. So students have over 15 social justice champions, people who have fought for social justice or against injustice, and also historical figures. They have over 15 to choose from. If they do not want to pick one of these social justice champions, then they always have the option at the bottom here to pick their own, option number 16. But if they do decide to pick one of these champions, what I did was create or include links to the individual as well as some videos, so they have some multimedia resources as well as updated current websites. So if I click on a short bio of this social justice champion, for instance, you will see that it takes them to a credible, current, and reliable website that they can gain verified research information from. So this will help them reach the objective by giving them the access that they need to the materials that they need to create this report. I also created included multiple different sources so that they have different avenues in which they can look in. So if we look at 4.2, both the purpose of the instructional materials and how the materials are used for learning activities are clearly explained. That is something I do not do so well in this portion. If we look back, I have instructions to the assignment, but I don't specifically or explicitly state how they should be using this. Should they be pulling direct quotes from this? Should they be citing it? These are some important aspects that I probably need to clarify. Students are writing a formal analysis, kind of a report, then they will need to use textual evidence to cite their findings. And if they do that, then they will need to cite the actual resource that they used. So somewhere in here, probably right in here, I will need to include more detailed instruction on how to cite and how to use each resource that I provided. Here for standard 4.3, again, we're referring to citation. I believe these sources are cited as far as my side of the obligation because the links take them directly to the website. So this information is not trying to be passed off as information that I've created or generated for them to use. As soon as they click on the link, it takes them to the website, and then students can then peruse this website or dig deeper into these websites through other links to find more information. So full credit for the information is going directly to the websites and the resources, the materials that are providing this information. I am not claiming any originality or creation of these websites, and as you can see here, even the videos go to specific mother sites like Democracy Now!, which are then accredited for the information. Next standard we have is 4.4. The instructional materials are current. Well, as we just saw, one of the materials being something, a site such as Democracy Now! Is constantly updated because it's a news site. So it is always being updated and revised to make sure that it is current, if not to the hour, to the minute, then at least to every hour or every few hours, because this information needs to remain current, as Democracy Now! Is a news site. Not all of them are remain as current as Democracy Now!, but they are maintained professionally and are updated and revised often. All of these websites and resources are educational resources, so they have to be verified, as well as having to be checked to make sure that the information is correct and to make sure that the information is current. So I believe that standard 4.4 is met on my Moodle course. A variety of instructional materials are used. So 4.5, this is definitely something that is one of my strong points. I use many different instructional materials. Going back to the site, not only do we have these different resources and materials available to students to actually do the report, but going back to the overall assignment, they have a comments forum in which they can leave their comments. I've also included tutorials as to how to create a storyboard using Storybird, which is the assignment that one of the assignments that I'm asking them to create. So there are a variety of materials included here, and this is just one example of one assignment. If I go back, then we can see in other assignments there are even more resources available as far as creating pictocharts or flow charts. Also have dialogue instruction through animation, and even included screencasts and lectures for more information. So throughout my website, my online instruction, there are various resources and many options for students to learn through different platforms. This is something that I feel is one of the strong suits. Again, another animation of the course is that there's a little bit of something for everybody. And finally, distinction between the required and optional material is clearly explained. This is something I do need to work on more as far as describing for students what must they use and what is optional. I think in the attempt to provide so much choice, I failed to address what is a requirement and necessary to use and what isn't. So for instance, if I go back to this assignment, there are numerous materials provided. 1, 2, 3, 4 sources of information for this one social justice group. Do I say use 3 of the 4, use 2 of the 4, or should I say you have to cite at least one piece of evidence from each of the pieces of resource provided? Do I say that they have to have at least 5 citations, but it can be from any one of them? These are questions and aspects that I'm going to have to address. If I want students to read all of them, then yes, I have to require that they show citation or textual evidence from each. But is it really that important that they read all of them? Some of these do have repeated information. As a matter of fact, a lot of them, they're not verbatim, but they're very close to the exact same information. The reason I include it that way is so that students have multiple entry points, so that they can read it or absorb it from different points of view, or in different language, or on different mediums and platforms. So the videos might say some of the exact same things as some of the actual resources. So should they read all of them? Should they watch all of them? Probably not. That might be too time consuming for them and also lose their interest. Although I'm focusing so much on choice, I do believe there is such thing as too much choice. So somewhere in these instructions, I should probably clarify exactly how many of these resources they should use. Maybe 2 of the 4, maybe 1 of the 4, but it has to be thoroughly used. These are all aspects that I should address and will decide on how to address moving forward in this Moodle course. Definitely something that I'm glad to reflect upon, because these standards here really help the development of my course. What I think is thorough and collaborative and interactive may be so, but also needs to have more structure and more direction and more clear instruction for my students. So it has been very helpful. On this one, if we're looking at the points here, I'd probably give myself a 3 over here. I'd probably give myself a 1 over here, and I'd give myself a 2 over here, a 2 right here, and a 1 right here, and maybe a 0 here. So out of a total of 3, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12 points, I might have to give myself about an 8 or a 9, which is not terrible, but could be improved upon. So thanks for looking at this webcast. There'll be more to come in the rest of the rubric analysis of my online Moodle course.